I want to welcome you tonight. I'm Sue Boyer, president of the Friends of the Oak Park Conservatory. The Friends support the Oak Park Conservatory with volunteer opportunities, special events, and educational programming, along with fundraising to support our 95-year-old conservatory. As part of the Friends mission, we want to help educate and inspire gardeners to become more confident in their endeavors. Thank you for attending tonight's program on growing garlic. Future programs include next month, on October 16th, a presentation entitled Mysterious Moths. This is an author talk co-presented with the West Cook Wildwinds, featuring Chelsea Gottfried, co-author of Gardening for Moths. On November 13th, our program is taking things indoors with a program on houseplant pest management. The Oak Park Conservatory is also offering its fall mum and bulb sale. The in-person sale opens September 19th. An abundance of beautiful, unique, and hardy mums grown in the conservatory greenhouse is available to brighten up your front porch and garden. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our special guest this evening. For the past 10 years, Sharon Fritchie, along with her husband Tony, has owned Garlic Breath Farm. Garlic Breath Farm is a certified organic garlic farm out in Elburn, Illinois, that frequents local farmers markets, as well as having a relationship with Fresh Time grocery store this past year. They grow more garlic, more than garlic, though garlic and helping to teach others to grow their own garlic is always their passion. Casey Nikoloff is our co-host and will manage the Q&A for us tonight. Please enter your questions in the chat, and Casey will present them at the end of the talk. So let's get started. I promise you, once you have grown your own garlic, you will never want to buy another grocery store imitation. So Sharon, I open it up to you.
Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and just start sharing my screen, put it on presentation mode, and then we will get started. So my name is Sharon Furshey, and like Sue mentioned, I am the part owner of Garlic Breath Farm. My husband and I both own and run Garlic Breath Farm, and we have been doing so for the past 10 years. We have kind of an unusual story that I'll talk about a little bit later, how we got into farming. I will tell you that originally our background was in computers, aviation, pretty much nothing to do with growing or farming or anything like that, and certainly not garlic. But we stumbled upon it. It has become our absolute love and passion, and part of our struggle with first starting off was that we were trying to figure out what to do and how to grow our best garlic. And so now we try to take this information and we just give it away freely. And so whether it's during this program here or even after the fact, if you guys have any questions, our information will be at the end. You know, we're always available to help people, and we just want to help you grow your own garlic. So as far as what we're going to be talking about tonight, I'm going to talk about us a little bit as a company, also how to grow your own garlic, importance of garlic in cooking and health, and then hard neck garlic, why it's unique and beneficial. So let's first talk about the differences between hard neck garlic and soft neck garlic. So if you look at the two bulbs of garlic in the picture, the garlic on the right is the hard neck garlic, and the garlic on the left is soft neck garlic. And you can kind of see that it's, when I say neck, I mean the stem that comes off of the bulb. That is what they're referring to. So the thing about hard neck garlic, the guy on the right, is that it has a central flower stalk, which eventually turns into a scape, which we'll talk about in a little bit. The hard neck garlic also has a stronger flavor compared to soft neck varieties, and also has higher levels of allicin content. And allicin's very important because that's the medicinal portion of garlic, and that's garlic's superpower. So tons of different types of hardneck garlic. You've got rocambole, porcelain, purple stripe. You go to the store and you only see one kind of garlic. And I will tell you that at the store, they typically sell soft neck garlic, the guys on the left. And the reason they do that is because soft neck garlic can be grown in warm weather climates, which means they can do it more year round than the hardneck garlic folks. So that's why oftentimes you'll hear that garlic comes from China, and sometimes other countries as well, and sometimes just California. But the hardneck garlic on the left, or I'm sorry, on the right, the hardneck garlic on the right is the one that we grow. And that's the variety that has just so much more to offer as far as flavor, medicinal purposes, and all that good stuff. So the thing about growing hardneck garlic is that there is resilience in cold climates. If you were to try to grow that soft neck garlic, the guy on the left, or yes, on the left, and you were trying to grow that in your garden, it may or may not work out depending on what the weather is like. And so when you go to the grocery store and you see that soft neck garlic and you take it home, you can try to grow it and it might work, but you might have a harsh winter and it's just not going to work. So it just depends. But if you're in the Midwest and you're in zone 5B like we are, and I know your town is, my town is, I assume everybody here is local, then you should be okay because it actually requires that winter weather to help the roots sink down and do their thing. The other cool thing about garlic is that it's easy to grow with minimal maintenance. And yes, that means even you folks with a brown thumb, we got you. You can do this. And then, as I mentioned before, there's a tons of health benefits to garlic. It's anti-inflammatory. There's a lot of heart health components, and there's a lot of anti-cancer components as well. So when do you plant the garlic? So planting time is typically in the fall, and that's the importance of this lecture today, because you can prepare mentally for doing this in the fall. Now, I will tell you before you get too excited, unfortunately, we are sold out of garlic for the season. So no, I can't help you with that, but no matter where you get it from, I'm more than happy to help you have a successful grow season with it. But you do plant it in the fall, typically about 4 to 6 weeks before the first hard frost. This will allow time for root development before the winter actually comes. And for us, mid to late October. I always tell people you plant around Halloween and you harvest around 4th of July. If you think about that, that's a 9-month process. So I also say you could either have a garlic or you can have a baby. Totally up to you. So how are you going to do it? Well, you can typically just take a clove off of a bulb, just the one little piece, and throw it to the ground, and it does pretty well. There are some things to try and make sure that your success is going to be a little bit better. And specifically, that has to do with having well-drained, fertile, sandy loam soil. When we first purchased Garlic Breath Farm, our ground was terrible. It was like a big old chunk of clay. And you know what? It worked anyway. So don't slow yourself down by thinking that you don't have the best soil. What's more important is that it's going to be well drained, because garlic is very susceptible to mold and it can deteriorate the bulbs. So if you have something that has a tendency to flood, you're not going to want to plant in that area. And you're also going to have to do some future casting, because you can say, I'm going to plant my garlic here in the fall, but like I said, this is a 9-month crop. So you don't want to plant it in a place where you might plant your tomatoes in the spring, because tomatoes need a lot of water. Garlic, not so much. So you want to keep that in mind. And then as far as, adding any kind of different nutrients to the soil, you usually use a 5-10-10 ratio of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And then if you're checking for pH range, I skipped over that. 6 to 7 is the ideal range for pH. But again, a lot of times people don't even get this picky. They really don't. And they just kind of plop it in the soil. And as long as it's well drained, you're probably going to be okay. We do recommend adding a little bit of fertilizer if you can think about it at the time of planting, and again in the spring as side dressing. So the reason for that is it just helps to compensate for whatever your soil might not have going on. Doesn't take too much time or effort, and if you miss it, you miss it. Hopefully your soil's not too stripped and you're still going to be okay. So if you're going to be adding compost, and we always add certified organic compost. And I guess I should have mentioned earlier, we're a certified organic farm. So what we can and cannot use is very, very specific. It's monitored. It's a big deal. We don't want to ruin our certification. So um, when we're adding, whether we're amending the soil or just throwing in some compost, for us, it all matters. But so you can throw in some compost, you want to loosen the soil. And then when you take each of the cloves and you plant it into the ground, you can leave about, we say 4 to 6 inches between cloves, but really we do 6 inches here. So that's always a safe one. And then you can see in this picture, my husband, Tony, he is taking the cloves and he's breaking them off of the bulbs. And with hardneck garlic, it typically has about 5 cloves per bulb. And he's just going to be breaking them up. He's going to keep the paper on the clove. You don't need to take the paper off. In fact, it helps to combat disease and other kind of icky stuff in the soil. And then the clove, you want to make sure that it's pointing up. So the tippy point has to be pointing towards the sky. If you put it in backwards, it will grow, but it's going to look like a weird golf club because it's going to have to go down and then find its way back up. So instead of wasting energy on that, just make sure that the pointy end is up and you're good to go. About 3 inches down. So I always tell people you take your clove and you can just stick it into the ground and shove it in there with your thumb. And that's it. If you see all those holes in the picture there, that's because we have a machine called a dimpler. And it's just like this barrel with these kind of look like screws. And it just rolls and it spaces the orientation of each of the cloves that we plant perfectly so that we know, based on our space, we grow about 70,000 bulbs a year. And this helps us keep that 6 inch spacing so we're not messing it up along the way. So then, do you mulch? We do recommend mulching. In fact, back on this page, that's plastic mulch that we're using that we poke the holes into. We're looking to get away from plastic for obvious reasons, but it does help with weed competition, which is a big deal in an organic farm because really we spend all of our time weeding and paying people to weed, and it's a big ordeal. So um, we're looking into different options for next year, like additional cover cropping and things like that. But after you plant it, do you need to mulch it? We recommend. So if you don't mulch over the ground after you plant your clove, a couple of things are going to happen. One, you're going to have the dirt wear away from water erosion, and then the top of your clove, or even the majority of your clove, might be sticking out. And you don't want that because then it's really susceptible to damage from the winter. Because even though I said before, it likes that cold weather to help encourage root growth, it can also damage the clove, therefore damage the seed if you let it get too much to it. So we want to be careful of that. And you can throw on, 4 to 6 inches of straw or crushed leaves. We say crushed leaves because if you leave them whole, it'll be like a wet blanket, and that's fine for the winter, but come spring, it's a bit too much. So if that's the best you can do, fine. Just make sure in the spring you're kind of lifting it up and getting more circulation down there. Watering. So regular watering is not needed unless there's a crazy long dry spell. In our 10 years of being in business, there has been precisely 1 year that we had to go through and water our garlic. It was looking pretty sketchy there a couple times, but just as we decided we were going to do it, Mother Nature came through and did her thing. So, again, uh, garlic is susceptible to mold, so it's not that you can't water it. I mean, there's plenty of rain that occurs, and that's just fine. But if you get a whole lot of rain, of course, that can be problematic. Now, managing pests, that's another thing. Garlic doesn't typically have to deal with too much pests as long as you make sure that you're rotating your crops. If you keep your garlic, which is an allium, in the same space as your onions the previous year, what you've done is pretty much not rotated anything. So you want to make sure that your garlic rotates to another area that no other allium was, and do at least a 3-year rotation, 5-year rotation if you can. And by doing that, you're gonna avoid the wireworms, the root maggots, many of the different creatures that will come in and infest and ruin your crop. So it's beneficial for all of your other plants too. So just something to keep in mind. And then fertilizing, you can use a balanced fertilizer in the early spring, if at all. Remember, I said that you could fertilize when you first plant and then do a side dressing later on in the spring. If you guys are not sure what a side dressing is, it's when the plant begins to grow and you already have that green foliage going, and then you just kind of come through and you kind of spray some liquid down towards the bottom of it. So we planted it in late October. And I will tell you, we have planted so late sometimes, depending on what crazy things life has handed us. Definitely in November. We've even planted as late as Christmas. Really don't recommend, but it is possible. The garlic did grow, it did do well, but it's miserable out there. So you can pretty much plant for as long as the ground is not frozen. But of course, if you get it closer to late October, early November, your bulbs will have more time to grow. So that's ideal. So now fast forward to spring and about the month of May, then you start seeing these guys kind of grow up. This we call spring garlic. If you have a garden and you have about, you planted about 10 cloves and you're only going to get about 10 bulbs, I would say don't waste it on this. But we actually take a bunch of our small cloves and we'll plant a whole area just for spring garlic. Because what you do with spring garlic is you do not allow it to go to full maturity. You pull it in May and then see down here towards the bottom, the white part right before the roots, there is no bulb formation just yet. And that really says a lot about how much bulb growth there is between May and July when we actually harvest the garlic. You can see right here, it just looks like a scallion, looks like a green onion. And it's kind of fun because it's delicious and it does look like a green onion, but it's very much the garlic taste. And you can eat it from tip to tail. We always tell people to just trim off the roots, and I mean, you could even eat the greens because they're nice and tender at that time. So June is one of the most exciting times of the year. So if you grow hardneck garlic, which is what we grow and is what I said grows best in the Midwest, and there's hundreds of varieties of the hardneck garlic. So just keep that in mind. It will grow a garlic scape in the month of June, and that's what I'm holding in this picture. And the tip here, if we were to let that actually go to flower, it would be kind of this cute little purple flower, but we don't want that because what happens when you're allowing a plant to grow a flower, it takes all the energy from the rest of the plant to make this beautiful flower because the flower is going to go to seed and it's going to repopulate itself because that's just what all plants do. So instead, we want to break off that scape. We need to stop having it put energy into the garlic scape, therefore into the flower. And that, my friend, will boost your bulbs, the size of them so much more. So definitely what you want to do. And then, so the garlic scape will start growing and then it will eventually do number 9 or letter P. And that's when you break them. You don't want to break them when they're first growing. And if you wait and they've made their letter P or number 9, after a while, they'll start straightening out and they'll start getting really woody if you were to try to eat them, and not very delicious at all. But if you catch them in the shape where I'm holding them, where it's a little bit of a corkscrew or it's a pea or a nine, they're nice and tender, and there's all different kinds of foods you can make with them. Very, very popular. And really, because it's such a small season, garlic scape season, it's one of those delectable farmers market things, because you're not going to find them at the store. So you have to go to the farmers market to get them. And it's just kind of a fun way to welcome summer. All right, so we're past garlic scape season. We broke off our garlic scapes. We allowed all that energy to now go into the bulb. And finally, it's July. So, like I said, we typically start harvesting our garlic around the 4th of July. You could probably go with mid-July, but it's really going to depend on when your garlic says it's time. You need to read the tea leaves, or in this case, read the garlic leaves. So the 3 to 4 lower leaves at the bottom of the stalk will start to turn yellow or brown. And that's really when you want to do it. If you wait until the whole stalk is brown, it's kind of too late. And it's not that it's going to be bad, but it's not going to store as long because the paper on the outside would have worn down a little bit over time. So 3 to 4 leaves on the bottom of the plant, yellow brown. Pull that guy out. It will store the longest, and it'll be absolutely delicious. They are those roots. Oh my gosh, those roots are very, very long. I can't even give it justice here on this screen. So they can be up to about a foot long. So that in mind, unless your soil's amazing, you're probably not going to be able to just pull it up by holding the stalk. And you might not want to because it might break off something. So plan on having a shovel, or, just something to kind of cut the roots to loosen it up and let it be free. Now, in this picture is my husband. He's taking our garlic, and it's just been recently harvested, and we'll bunch it up into groups of 10, and then he'll tie it on a rope, and then he'll do that 10 times. So each rope has 100 garlic bulbs on it. And the reason we do that is because it helps us identify where all the large bulbs are, medium, small, and the different varieties. We typically grow 3 different varieties. And so this allows us to quantify, how much we have in each size. All right, so be careful when you're using that shovel and you're trying to get that thing out, because sometimes you can damage the bulb. I mean, it happens occasionally. And all I would say about that is just make sure you eat that one first. It's not ruined forever, but it's probably going to have a clove on there that you're not going to want to eat. And so just be careful. And after you pull it out of the ground, you want to remove all the soil and dirt. And oh gosh, don't wash it. I know that garlic, if you look in the picture, you can see just how dirty it looks. Just leave it. Let it dry out dirty, because after it has dried for about 4 to 6 weeks, which is what we call curing, the paper on the outside will be nice and flaky, and you can just brush off that dirtiness and it looks like a beautiful white bulb, just like at the store. So those store bulbs, they did not wash them. They just dusted off the outer layers that had all the dirt on them, and you will too. Now, with fresh garlic, which is pretty much when you first harvested it and before you've let it cure for 4 to 6 weeks, it's very wet and sticky, and it's a lot more gentle on a lot of people's stomachs. So you can eat garlic right away out of the ground. And we'll do that a lot of times. We'll go ahead and we'll cure a bunch of them, and then the rest of them we'll just kind of take and we'll sell it as fresh garlic or consume it as fresh garlic. And it's pretty wonderful. It's a little bit more sweet and sticky, and just, gosh, the most fresh thing you'll ever have. So curing garlic. Oh, and let me just say, in this picture here, this is my father-in-law. This is he's helping us size garlic. So we have a board that he and my mother-in-law made, and now we're up to, I think, about 8 boards because we have a whole lot of people helping us now. But, we take the bulbs and we, just pretty much mitered some holes into these boards to help us identify our small, medium, large bulbs so that we can be consistent and not eyeball it. So that's what he's doing right there, and that looks like it's probably a medium bulb. But so after we do that, we collect them all by size and then we hang them up like I was explaining that my husband does. Now, the reason you want to cure it, which is like I said, pretty much just let it air dry, is because it helps to have it store longer. You want to make sure that it's in a well ventilated place for 4 to 6 weeks, and temperature and humidity control are optimal, but not always required. I mean, if you're going to be having your, garlic for a long time and, you need to be careful with it, then you want to keep it around 50 degrees, around, a nice moderate humidity level, I think 50 to 60%, and that will help it to stay fresh longer. We do have a lot of people that just hang it up in their kitchen, in their garage, in their foyer, in their basement, and just let it sit there and it still lasts for a good 6 months. So like I mentioned, and here's a better picture of a bunch of the garlic all hung up in our drying shed. About 60 degrees, 50 to 60% humidity. Um, you can braid. So if you were to do soft neck garlic, which is not what we grow, but that's the stuff at the store, those are the kinds that you can braid the stalks together. Okay. Um, if you have hard neck garlic like us, then you're going to want to come up with some other ideas. You can hang them by their stalks, and then after they're done being cured, you can cut off the stalks, cut off the roots, and store them in mesh bags or wooden crates. And then, like I said, they will last for about up to 6 months. So now if we're talking about cooking, there's a whole lot of benefits to using hard neck garlic in cooking. So, of course, you can roast your garlic, you can use it as a spread. It's going to have a lot of really beautiful high flavor, and you can even actually use it raw. So, if you're using garlic raw in a recipe, pesto, that's a perfect example of when we use raw garlic. And so when you use something like hard neck garlic, you're going to see that it really has flavor that carries. And then, oh, down, as I mentioned before, using garlic scapes, you can do that in stir fries, also pesto, grilling, all the good stuff. You can use the spring garlic in cooking. It's just all edible. And then health benefits of garlic. So the nutritional content of garlic, which is rich in vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, it's just contained in every single clove. It is popularly used in natural medicine. It's considered to be immune boosting, improves heart health, lowers cholesterol. There's a whole bunch of studies on that. You can check out the NIH website for garlic and what they found as far as what it can do for you health wise. And then if you want to have the most benefit from your garlic, consuming it raw is going to be the best way to do that. Um, and specifically, if you were to take a garlic clove and you were to put it through a garlic press, and using a press is better than chopping it up because it creates pressure and it releases more allicin for it. And then a lot of times we'll tell people, okay, so you need to wait 5 minutes and then you can combine it with apple cider vinegar and honey, local honey, if you want to help to combat allergens. Or my favorite, I love to use the pressed garlic and mix it in with the almond butter. I know it sounds weird, but man, if you try it, you're going to absolutely love it, especially if you love Thai food. So give that a try. So let's talk about some common issues that folks have when growing garlic. So pests and diseases that affect garlic, wireworms, garlic rust, bulb rot, um, and garlic rust. Sometimes you'll see that on the outside of your bulb. That's caused by the fungus Puccinia, LE, which is bulb rot that is consisting of several bacteria. And that's caused by a lot of moist, humid conditions with high nitrogen. So you can prevent and manage the issues organically by not watering at night, removing infected leaves, soil testing, and crop rotation, like I mentioned. 5 year is optimal, but you could probably get away with 3 year if you really just didn't have the space. And then, sometimes you just get to the point where something funky is going on with your garlic and you just want to check with somebody and see if it's okay. And I will tell you that we're always happy to help for free. But if you get to the point where you need more professional help, we call the folks at the plant clinic at Champaign Urbana, and they would be able to help you with any of the plants that you grow, not just garlic. So be sure to write down their name, the plant clinic at Champaign Urbana. They're absolutely awesome. You can send plant samples and whatnot. And we actually had a time where we were selling a large amount of garlic to somebody who had concerns of, I think, bloat nematode. And we didn't have the issue. We knew we didn't have the issue, but we needed to prove it in order to close the sale. So we sent our information over to the plant clinic, and they were able to, help prove that our garlic was nice and healthy. So there's also that, but sometimes you might actually have an issue that you want them to help you work out. And then sometimes you might have some growth problems. So maybe your bulbs are a little too small. If that's the issue, then you can check your soil. You can look for pest issues or you can look for watering issues. Um, Bulb rot or mold. Um, if you look at the picture, that is a garlic scape that nobody pulled when it made that number 9 or letter P, like I was mentioning earlier. It just sort of got to be its own thing. And this is before it actually has gone to flower, but at this point it has straightened out. It's pointing to the sun. And when it does that, it's already stolen so much energy from the bulb. And I will have a picture a little bit later that will show you the difference, but it's pretty significant. It's a big deal in the month of June to get those garlic scapes off at the right time. If you delay, it's really going to impact your bulb size. Okay, here's what I was talking about. So when we plant, we typically plant the same size cloves in the same areas, which means we will then end up having all the smalls together, all the mediums together, all the larges together, because a large clove will make a large bulb, and a small clove will make a small bulb. And so in this case, these were just like, I don't know, smaller medium bulbs, and they were planted all together. But if you look at the middle one's tiny, and they were the same size clove when they got planted. But that middle one was from that picture I just showed you previously, where he had his garlic scape not picked and went straight up to the sky. And it stole about 75% of the energy to try to make it go to flower. And that is why that little bulb is so tiny there in the middle compared to its brothers on both sides. So garlic scapes are a big deal. All right. So the cool thing about garlic is if you just don't eat it all, if you can control yourself and not eat it all, you can actually start replanting your own seed and have this repopulate over and over and over again. So like I mentioned before, in hardneck garlic, typically each bulb has about 5 cloves. So on average, you can get 20 bulbs and plant them, and then the next year you'll have 100 bulbs. And we always say 100 bulbs is ideal for people to aim for because this will help to feed your family. And then it's not going to be long before everybody's asking you for your garlic because you're going to be like, oh, here, try this. It's delicious. And then they'll just come back and keep asking for it because it's really that good. And it really is that much better than anything you'll have at the store. So, um, That's one of our extra large bulbs in that picture. And the extra large bulbs are great, but I will tell you that it's funny. We used to hold those back and not sell them because we thought, oh, we're going to plant these because then we'll get more large bulbs the next year. But you have to look at each of the cloves, and sometimes the cloves are not really going to be that big in the end just because that bulb is. So sometimes you want to actually look at the bump on the side where the clove is, and it will help to hint to you what you can expect the following year based on size. So, in this discussion, we talked about hardneck garlic, why it's unique and beneficial, how to plant garlic, how to harvest garlic, how to eat garlic, and the importance of garlic in cooking and health, and how you can get away with buying garlic just one time, planting it, and then becoming your own garlic farmer, essentially. So this slide is regarding Kevin Bacon. This is our pet pig. And the reason I share this with you is because he is the reason that Garlic Breath Farm exists. So we used to live in Plainfield, and we used to live in a normal house with sidewalks and all the regular stuff. But we had a pet pig. I'd always wanted a pet pig growing up, and I never got one. And then one day my husband decided to be the best husband of all time and surprised me with a pet pig. And this was great. Love Kevin. But the problem was when we wanted to move to get closer to our jobs, after he fixed up our house real nice, there was no neighborhood or association, I should say, that would allow us to come move by them. It was always like, yeah, you could have a dog, but no pigs allowed, even though he was potty trained, just like a dog. And so we started looking around and we couldn't find property anywhere that would allow Kevin Bacon to be a pig. And finally, we found in Elburn this little micro farm. It really wasn't a farm at that time. It was just like 3 acres of land. It had 1 acre of growing field, and this old beat up house, and we just decided that it was going to be perfect for us. And so we brought Kevin Bacon with us, where a pig could be a pig. And then we looked at that growing field, and we had no idea what to do. Like I said, our background was in aviation and computers and nothing to do with farming. So my husband did a quick Google search on what can you grow, what can you make a lot of money on with a micro farm, and it came up with garlic or lavender. So at that time, we didn't know what to do with lavender, but we knew we liked garlic. And so our master plan was to grow as much garlic as we could, and anything we couldn't sell, we were going to eat. That was our business plan. So 10 years later, Garlic Breath Farm is still thriving. Kevin Bacon here is still kicking. He's going to be 15 in October, and he's ironically just the reason we have this farm. And so this shows him as employee of the month. This upsets my husband all the time. It absolutely amuses me, so it continues. And on Sundays, if you follow us on Facebook or Instagram, Kevin Bacon posts an interesting facts thing on social media. And he, for whatever reason, is obsessed with Taylor Swift. So he's always talking about her, always trashing Travis Kelce. It's just what he does. So he has about the personality of a 10-year-old boy, but that's who he is. So I want to thank everybody for attending. If you want to contact us, you can reach us at www.garlicbreathfarm.com. And our email is up there, info@garlicbreathfarm.com. On Facebook, we're Garlic Breath Farm, and on Instagram, we're at Garlic Breath Farm. So if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for a great presentation, really comprehensive. And I know I'm hungry thinking about garlic now. So just really appreciate your time and, informing us of all that garlic has to offer this evening. I'm just looking in the chat. Again, folks, please continue to put any questions that you may have. We have a little bit of time tonight still. Rachel put in the chat, I grow my grandfather's garlic and my biggest problem is small bulbs. They still taste great though. Do you have any advice for Rachel for getting those bulbs a little bit bigger?
Absolutely. So Rachel, you've got the growing down. We just want to tweak the timing on things. And so I would be asking, if it's hard neck, and maybe you can throw it in the chat. I don't know if it is hard neck or not, but if it is, are you getting the scapes right when they turn, to the letter P or the number 9? If you're letting them go a little bit too long, that can cause some small bulbs. And also, garlic it needs full sun, so that's also going to be important. And then the drainage that I mentioned. So if you want to get more comprehensive information on that, and you can send us some pictures, you've got our email there. Please feel free to do so. We'll help you troubleshoot.
Excellent. And Rachel said, yes, it is hard neck. And she replied, the sun could be better. So sounds like some helpful tips ringing true. So
Thank you very
appreciate that.
much.
Thanks, Rachel. Let's see here. So moving on, Silvana here says, I've been grating my garlic on the rasp grater. Would that still maintain the health benefits? The flavor seems to be very strong.
So it is going to maintain the health benefits. However, if you're looking to maximize your Allison content, then you do need something that's going to put pressure on it. So it's not to say that you're not going to get any of the health benefits. You certainly would, but you're just going to get more if you throw it into a garlic press and then you wait the 5 minutes and allow the Allison to permeate.
Excellent. And then I have a question from Sandra if the presentation will be posted for viewing later. So we'll get back with Judy and coordinate and just see if that's available to send out. But again, the contact information is on the screen. So if you have any follow-up questions, I'm sure you could get those answered. And then moving down the list here of questions, let's see. John asks, do you ever use the stems, aka green garlic?
So we do use the stems, particularly when it's in its youth. So between the spring garlic and the young garlic, as long as the stems are still nice and soft, we'll chop them up and we can turn them into vegetable broth. Sometimes they'll get a little bit too woody as the time goes on, as it gets closer to when it begins curing. So if you were to get it like in early July, it'll be okay, but it doesn't take much longer and it'll be a little bit too woody. So I would say stick to eating the stalks closer to the month of May, even June, but probably you're not harvesting anything in June except for garlic scapes. But yeah, you can definitely use them for broth no matter what, no matter how fibrous they get.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sharon. And then Karen from FlopCon did confirm the lecture will be posted on the FlopCon website. So folks can be on the lookout for an email from Judy with that once it's posted. And then let's see. Silvana did say, okay, I have a garlic press too. Back to your last answer there. TC is asking, is it okay to grow in containers? Anything to be careful with in particular?
Great question. So we do not recommend growing in containers. And the reason is because the cold will impact the clove too much. It's just not insulated as well as if it's in the ground. And so we have had a lot of customers want to do containers. Some folks don't have access to a garden, and so they've really been experimenting with it. So what I would say is if a container is your only option, then what you would want to do then is after you get the first frost, and actually you could probably just drag it out until January. Once about January comes in, you're going to want to bring it into your garage or someplace else where it's not going to get way too cold, because if it gets too cold, it's going to ruin your bulb, and then 9 months down the drain. So possible, takes a lot of effort and work, but not impossible. Ground's easier.
Very helpful. Moving to our next question here from Brianna. Any thoughts on the best variety to plant?
Ooh, so that just comes down to flavor preference. Our top seller is porcelain music variety. It is not the most potent garlic. If you grew up anywhere towards, any European countries, or if you can tolerate raw garlic and you eat it like crazy, this is probably going to be too bland for you. But for the rest of everybody, the majority of folks, porcelain music is just really wonderful because it can be enjoyed raw or cooked. It's just high in flavor, easy to grow, it's hardy. It just makes you a pro in no time. Now, if you want to have a spicier garlic, something that bites back, then the two varieties that we recommend are Georgian Fire and Romanian Red. And they have very distinct different flavors, but you just have to try and see what you like the best. But porcelain music is what I'd recommend for starting out.
Fantastic. And then it looks like we just have maybe one more question here from Sue. Sue says we use straw for mulch, but I heard we might have problems with some types. What is a good source?
Oh, so straw's okay. The problem sometimes with straw is you have a lot of weed seed in there. So that's, annoying. But it's not impossible to work around, and it is a shallow weed if you were to have that. But yeah, a lot of people do use straw, and if that's something that you have access to that's nice and cheap, then you can do that instead of the leaves. So that's totally acceptable. You just got to tolerate the weed seeds.
Mhm. And then I'll just point out we had a couple of shout outs. This was wonderful. Thanks so much for the great presentation. So folks really, appreciated all of the wonderful information this evening. So it looks like that takes us to the end of the question. So I'll go ahead and pass this back to Sue Boyer to wrap us up.
Well, thank you so much, Sharon. This was very enlightening, and I know that you probably got people started on the path to growing garlic that haven't done it before. We appreciate your time and your expertise and giving us all this fine information. As Casey mentioned, we will have this available online for you if you go to the fopcon.org site. Probably in a week or a week and a half, it should be available for you to review again so you can get those fine points. And also, we usually send out a little evaluation along with it, so for you to give us some feedback. We're always looking for new topics as well. So if you've got some ideas out there, please share them with us because we want to help you all become better gardeners. And if you've got those ideas, somebody else probably has those questions as well. So thank you so much for all of you for coming this evening. And we wish you a good month. And we're looking forward to seeing you again in October for our moth presentation, which should be very interesting. So thank you so much.